My E30 and I have had quite the extensive history over the last 14 years that I've owned it, and just like all of my other cars, I've modified it quite extensively, including the wrap. But I was never really happy with the way the car looked blue. It originally came black, which was sleek. I had chrome wheels on it, and I really liked it. I thought that blue would maybe spice that up a little bit, do gold wheels, which I thought would look really great. And I do still love the wheels, but when Vinyl Frog hit me up and said, hey, we've got some wraps, we'd love to send you one, we'd like you to try, I thought maybe it's a good time to swap the color on this thing and start fresh. When you drive any lowered car like this, you're kind of gonna run into a few things like damaging the lip, and it's kind of expected. It's all part of the experience, but when I went to rewrap this, I realized I didn't really have any vinyl left. I didn't buy a whole lot in the first place, being that this was a convertible. I didn't really need that much, but I went to purchase more of it, and the company no longer makes this color. They don't even make automotive vinyl anymore, so I'm kind of out of luck there, and the only option is to rewrap the whole car at this point. So I guess we'll start peeling it off. This vinyl was made by a company called Arlon, and they were kind of an exciting new company that had some really cool colors. And mind you, I think I wrapped this thing probably 5 or 6 years ago, so it's definitely been a while. I want this video to be more about actually wrapping the car rather than unwrapping it, but there's a couple things I wanted to note here. Is I did like a little bit of body work on these fenders, kind of pulled them a little bit and smoothed them out with a little bit of body filler. The one thing I noticed after I wrapped the car was you could still see some scratches underneath here from using too high a grit of sandpaper. So I might hit these with another coat of body filler just to try to smooth them out a little bit. I suck at doing body work stuff, so this is definitely not my forte. It's really time consuming, it's messy, it's dirty, I really dislike it. But I'm gonna try to get a couple of these things fixed up so they look a little bit nicer, because this is just like paint. A lot of people don't understand that it doesn't hide a lot of the surface flaws. So if you've got little chips and dings and things like that, little scratches, the wrap's gonna show that right through. So it's not really a fix-all. The sun's starting to come out a little bit. It definitely makes it easier to pull the vinyl off if it's hot outside. Kind of wish I had done it yesterday because it was bright and sunny. If you're pulling old vinyl like this, you're probably gonna run into a lot of the adhesive getting stuck to the hood, and luckily it's not everywhere, it's just in a couple little places. But what I learned is that you can take an eraser wheel and just really slowly drag it against those spots, and it does a really great job of getting that nasty stuff off without using any chemicals and rubbing it. I'm pulling the trunk now, and you can really see why I started wrapping this car in the first place. There's just so many blemishes and things all over the paint, just every square inch of it, and I just got so tired of looking at it, I decided I'd just do a fun color. You know, I always wanted a blue car. It maybe wasn't the coolest color for this car, but I lost the third brake light cover when I was wrapping it the first time, and I never ended up finding it, so I just wrapped over it. I think what I'm gonna do is actually just weld these holes shut, do a little bit of body work on here, and then hopefully I can make it look like it never happened. It makes a humongous difference when the sun starts to come out, how easily this vinyl comes off. So flip the car around, hopefully it'll get sunny again, and speed this up a little bit. You gonna help me take the rest of the blue off the car? You can go play. That's all right. Day 2, step 2 is getting the car torn down to kind of its bare minimum. I gotta get some of the parts off of it, like the bumpers and the badging, things like that, so we can get the vinyl down in the little crevices that it needs to go. Last time, I kind of half-assed it and cut a lot of corners. It makes it really difficult to do a really good job, but this time I want the car to look great. I wanna make it as easy as possible on myself to do the install, get all the surfaces really smooth and nice so when the car is wrapped, it looks awesome. I'm definitely no pro at paintless dent removal, but the dents look a lot better, a lot less noticeable, so that's great. I'm really excited to get some of the vinyl on the car, so I kind of want to just do maybe a test piece on a small spot, see what the color looks like, see how it lays, and yeah, let's just try it. I'm really excited to show you guys what color I picked. So this is Rufous Red by Vinyl Frog, and it's a pretty cool looking color. It's actually really similar to a BMW E30 color called Calypso Red, and that's why I picked it. I wanted something that looked kind of OEM on this car, and I think that darker colors look good on my car. So I really liked how the black looked. The blue, I was on the fence about. I think it would have been better if it was a darker blue. So I picked kind of like the darkest red I could find. I don't want something too flashy. I don't want something that doesn't look OEM. And this Rufous Red looks really awesome. So let's cut a piece off and stick it on there. You want to make sure that the surface is as clean as possible, so I'm going to clay bar it, and this is pretty much like a little piece of clay that you rub along the surface when it's wet. That kind of picks up a lot of the contaminants and just makes sure that the surface is as smooth as possible, because if there's little pieces of dust or dirt or like a piece of hair, you're going to see that underneath the vinyl. So you want to start with the most optimal, smoothest surface possible. You can already see how much dirt and crud this is picking up off the paint. This is probably the 4th or 5th time I've wrapped one of my cars, and I've kind of found out that I don't love wrapping stuff with the squeegees. I will use it at some point, I'm sure, but I prefer to just use my hands. So I bought these wrapping gloves that kind of just make stuff a little bit easier. It minimizes scratches and also just a little bit less wear and tear on your skin. So let's try these out and see how they work. So I think it would have actually been a lot smarter to have just done one big piece all the way across. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I've got plenty of vinyl. It almost makes me want to tear this apart and just do that instead. Just do the whole entire section. I don't understand why I didn't consider that. I think I was pretty optimistic with this piece, thinking that it would be really easy, but it's actually a little bit complicated with how some of the parts roll over and getting in between the trim, making that look nice, but I think I did a pretty good job. I'm so excited about the color. Vinyl Frog actually warned me before I got this film that it was calendar film, and I wasn't sure what that was exactly, so I looked it up, and what I had been using on previous cars is called cast film, and cast film is known to be a little bit more malleable, a little bit thinner, and react to heat a little bit better than calendar film. But so far, I actually kind of like the calendar film. I was expecting that it was going to make things more difficult, but I think in the long run, it actually does a little bit better of a job filling in some of the little pinholes and scratches in the paint, and that's kind of what I'm going for here. If I have to spend a little bit extra time installing it, that's fine, but if I get a better product in the long run, I'm really not upset by that. Given the fact that this hood is already pretty beat up, I'm hoping that I can only make it look better, and there's definitely some rock chips and things that I could probably sand down to the bare metal and get those to disappear completely, but I'm not exactly ready to do that to the car during this stage, maybe sometime in the future like I talked about. But the previous vinyl I had on the car, just from day one as I applied it, I was not happy with it. I'm excited to see how this Vinyl Frog handles it. If it covers up some of these little scratches and chips, that will be really exciting to me, because it's really just gonna make the car look better. I'm already very impressed by how shiny this is and its lack of like orange peel look, but I think this will be the true test on the hood. So the hood is done, and I honestly can't believe how good it turned out. These guys had me a little bit paranoid, They told me it was gonna be a different wrapping experience, but you know what? I bought an $1,100 roll of KPMF for my 240. My whole experience with it was kind of mid. I wasn't excited about it. And this turned out so good. It practically looks like paint. I mean, if I had sanded down some of the little rock chips and things, it would be perfect. I'm just really happy with it. And these guys sent me this roll for free, and I was totally expecting to, just wrap the car and give my honest experience and be excited about the fact that it's a different color, but I didn't actually think that I was gonna have such a good time wrapping this and actually enjoying it as much as I did, because it just feels so good when you spend time on something like this and it comes out good. Day 3, and the car is looking good, but this project's getting pretty serious now, and I think I want to address what's most likely going to be one of the hardest things on this project is fixing up this trunk. I lost the third brake light on it, and it's got these unsightly holes. Fortunately, the earlier models of this car didn't even come with one, so I could buy a non-third brake light trunk for probably about 400 bucks, but I think I'm just barely skilled enough to pull this off, so I'm going to weld these holes shut, body filler them a little bit, you know, sand it flat, and then we're going to wrap it, and hopefully it looks nice. I got all the holes welded up and ground down. It's pretty easy to do. What's hard is not warping the metal as it gets hotter and hotter, so you kind of want to take it slow. For that larger hole, I cut a circle with a hole saw and then welded that in. That was probably the hardest part, actually. Now I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of body filler, make sure everything's all flat, and I think it'll be ready to wrap. You've maybe seen some of my other videos with my 240SX where I talk about low being a lifestyle, and it really is. That car is always getting damaged from driving low, but I love it. And the E30 is no different. I've finally splurged on this BMW OEM IS lip. Pretty incredible they still have these available, but I don't want to buy another one. This one got dragged under the car for a short while, maybe 10 feet, and got damaged pretty badly. A cheapo Amazon $60 lip would have exploded into a million pieces, so this is perhaps better. I'm gonna try and fill this in with some epoxy, you know, mix some up, put it in this crevice here because I don't want to keep sanding it down and take away too much material. It's practically going through as it is, so we'll see if I can get that fixed up and then we'll wrap it. I'm not really sure how well this is gonna work, but once it dries, I guess we'll find out. Oh, so that was a lot of sanding and body filling. I took a lot of breaks throughout the day and, you know, let some of it dry. I wrapped the valance on the front of the car, which looks really nice. I think this might be the nicest body work I've ever done. I finally got myself some of those foam sanding blocks and some real sandpaper and everything. Stopped buying crap from Home Depot and actually get some real automotive stuff. So can't wait to paint this thing, put it back on the car so we can wrap it. The front end is almost complete. I just finished wrapping the bumper and it's all looking better and better by the moment. I've been spending a ton of time getting the dents kind of worked out and body fillered over. So the driver's side is pretty close to being finished with that, so I can start wrapping that. While some of that body filler is drying, I'm gonna start wrapping the trunk, put that back on, so that'll be another big piece out of the way. I'd say the trunk came out pretty good. It's definitely not perfect. I did a really good job on the body work part of it. I'm pretty blown away by it with the welding and the body filler. You could never tell that thing ever had a third brake light, so that's awesome. I definitely need some more practice and to try harder to get the vinyl pulled and stretched out flat before I get it laid down, but it's pretty hard to do when you only have two hands. So you can see a little bit of glue marks and things like that. And also because I was moving the vinyl around quite a bit, it pulled up a little bit of the spray paint. That's a little unfortunate. It looks totally fine. It pretty much is 99% of the way there. If I have a ton of vinyl at the very end, maybe I'll rewrap it, you never know, but I think I'm happy enough with it for now. Definitely when you get outside and see the car as a whole, you don't really notice any of those things. So I'm gonna get that fender sanded down and start wrapping that next, and I might forego not spraying that one just because, see how it rolls. Hopefully that doesn't cause it to rust, but we'll only know in the future if that happens. Just like that, I got the fender finished up and I put the grill in here just for now so we can kind of see what it's all looking like. The car almost looks like one color if you look at it from the right angle, which is definitely exciting. This calendared type film really works well for this car. You know, maybe for a nicer car that has a perfect paint job, the cast film is really good. A car that has lots of bends and things in it, and I think that's what those films were designed for. But this Vinyl Frog film is thicker, it covers up scratches and things like that so much better. You know, the wrap is only gonna be as good as the metal underneath it, but sometimes that metal is imperfect, and I really like how it's hiding some of the defects. You know, of course, it's not 100% perfect, but it's looking a heck of a lot better than last time it did when it was blue. So I'm gonna keep going here, maybe cue the montage while I do the door and whatever else, and this car will be getting almost halfway done. felt like it was about time to start working on the passenger side of the car, so I pulled it outside, got to really see it in the natural light for the first time, and it looks awesome. I'm still extremely happy with it. If I had a little dial, you know, to change the color a tiny bit, I would maybe make it a tiny bit darker. I was really going for like a dark burgundy here, but I think it's pretty much nails it, and the car looks great, so that's really all I care about. But it feels like things are taking forever here. I think stuff is about to speed up a little bit. Passenger side of the car doesn't really need a whole lot of body work. There's just one dent in the door that I'm gonna work out. So I got a bunch of stuff done on the back of the car, you know, where the license plate goes and that lower valance, kind of things that you don't really think about when you start planning out like what parts of the car you're gonna wrap. You know, they're just little spots that you sort of forget about, but those are looking really good and it's making the car feel a lot more complete. If you see me using like masking tape on some things, that's because I don't want vinyl to stick in those areas. So I use some on the fender you might have seen, and that's to keep the vinyl from sticking to itself on the fender, because you can accidentally pull up the vinyl that you've already installed, and that can really suck. So I use it on the back here where the exhaust is and the tow hook is, so that it wouldn't get stuck to the tow hook so easily. Hopefully work my way around it, and it worked out pretty good. I'm gonna start doing the quarter panel, the door, and the fender now, and once that's done, we'll be almost there. Really all that's left is the surround around the window, the A-pillar, and I don't even know. I'm gonna have to look at some stuff. I guess the mirrors. The mirrors do not look easy. I'm not looking forward to that.
Now I'm in a free fall, with nothing to hold on to. Racing for the end, praying for the wind to slow down the feeling and let me somewhere new. Stay.
It's day 6 of wrapping my E30 with this new Rufous red vinyl from Vinyl Frog, and so far I'm absolutely loving it. The passenger side is completely finished. I've got every single body panel finished up, along with the trim pieces put back together, and the front end's got the grille and the badge and everything back on it. So I need to flip the car around today, get the A-pillars done where the window surround is, and then also pull this gigantic dent that's in the quarter panel. The previous owner told me that somebody had hit and ran the car in a parking lot, and this dent has been here since I owned the car for nearly 15 years. I think it's time to finally take care of this and get it nice and smoothed out. So I'm gonna use my slide hammer along with a little bit of body filler to hopefully get it nice and flat, and then we'll wrap this thing. I actually drove this car to college back in the day when I first got it. It was my daily driver, and living in Portland, it's really rainy during the school year. The soft top leaked so much, I actually filled this inner crevice here with silicone to keep the water from dripping in my lap while I was driving, and a lot of it is still there. So I'm gonna use the eraser wheel to get a lot of that stuff off. That way there's a nice clean surface. I never actually ended up wrapping this with that blue vinyl. You know, by the time I got to this part of it, I was kind of starting to run low on the vinyl, and it just never ended up getting wrapped. So the eraser wheel really didn't work great getting that silicone off of this. That stuff is pretty sticky and you kind of have to scrape it. So I used a razor blade for a lot of it, and even ended up using my fingernails, which worked pretty good to keep from scratching the paint too badly. But now that that's wrapped, it looks really great. I'm happy because it just makes the profile of the car look so much more accentuated, having that the proper color. I was working on the vents for the front bumper in my kitchen this morning. My kids are home for summer vacation, so you know I gotta hang out with them as much as possible. We got Reese in the garage right now hanging out with me, watching his iPad. Maybe he'll hang with us while I pull this dent in the quarter panel. I'm gonna throw a little coat of body filler over it, and we'll get that sanded down. Hopefully it'll look close to as good as new as possible, and then we can wrap this last piece finally, and the car will be done. I probably should have bought the Weldon style body hammer because it obviously will stick a lot better to the body, but I was uncertain whether I was gonna actually sand this down and body fill it in the first place. I thought maybe I could get it pretty close just by using this glue-on tool. What I found out about the glue-on tool is you've got to get the glue exactly to a certain temperature, the body exactly to a certain temperature, to get this glue to stick really well so that you can put enough force on this piece of metal that it will actually bend. A little bit of body filler and a lot of sanding, but this quarter panel finally looks nice and smooth. You can't see the dent anymore. I ended up doing 3 layers and kind of just built up some nice thin layers, probably less than an 1/8 inch thick in any of the places. I'm sure some people would still cringe at that, but I could have spent many more hours trying to pull that dent out further, but I'm kind of getting tired of doing this. So wanted to get that all finished up. We'll get this wrapped. While I was waiting for some of that to dry, I kind of played around with wrapping the mirror. I did the mirror on the passenger side the other day and didn't like how it turned out. I kind of cut one of the pieces a little bit odd and it started pulling back quite a bit, so it's really obvious where the cut lines are. I'm gonna try to wrap it so that you can't see any cut lines from the top, but you run into these finger-like looking things. I'm not sure if they call this tunneling or what it is, but this is very common to happen with wrapping cars when you're going around corners. So this is one thing that the Vinyl Frog's probably not gonna be the strongest at, the easiest at. You want one of those thinner films for stuff like this, but it's still gonna get it knocked out. You just gotta be careful not to stretch it out too much because it'll lose its color. The wrap's all finished up and honestly, I couldn't be happier. It's funny because in the shade, this color is exactly the color that I wanted the wrap to be. In the sun, it's a little brighter, a little bit brighter than I expected, but that's kind of what you get with the wraps. My 240 was the same thing. I thought that car was gonna be almost black and it's very purple, but I'm really happy with the Vinyl Frog. I think it exceeded my expectations at being a more affordable wrap company. Wasn't sure what to expect, but I think the wrap was definitely a little bit easier to wrap over some of the larger areas and to make things look nice, cover up blemishes and scratches and chips in the paint. It was definitely really good for that. The only thing I ran into was corners. So since the wrap is thicker, it's definitely a bit harder to wrap around little edges and things like that. When it was a big broad corner like the mirrors, you know, those actually weren't that bad. I got through that pretty quickly, but tiny little edges where you're trying to roll over something like on the very tip of the quarter panel over there, had a few little issues, and you know, it really comes down to experience. I probably would have done a better job if I was better at wrapping, but I knocked this thing out and it looks amazing. So the car is finally ready to go before summer, so I couldn't be happier, and I'm definitely gonna enjoy this thing. It needs a little bit of a tune. I'm probably gonna get to the interior at some point and fix some of these cracked seats. There's a couple of other little parts I wanna throw on the car before we get going, but next weekend I'm gonna take it to E30 Picnic, which is perfect timing for this thing to be refreshed, and I'm sure everyone out there will love it.